So yeah, understandable. So okay. Oh my god, I don't even know where to begin. At the highest of levels, when we looked at the penal code, you know, kind of looked like they just kind of changed the fine and the time and added a couple charges, right?
Right.
Well, after looking at like just the high level changes, like I think the recommendation that and we're getting this all like written down in paper, but I kind of want to give you a bit of a preview, is that given the lack of reason as to why any of it changed, it's unreasonable to keep any of it. And as crazy as I even thought as it was to recommend we revert it all, back during the governor meeting, that is a conclusion I started to lean on, because even something as simple as why is the lowest charge $1,000 now is unsubstantiated. And
well, the fines are up to you, aren't they?
Well, I mean, sure, but as a part of the February 6th changes, like some things went from like $1,000 became like the minimum fine for the lowest charge.
Right. Okay.
And it's not to say that that's not reasonable, but it's the lack of justification that's the issue.
Yeah.
And without the lack of justification, it creates another problem. Is that if the fines moved up to a $1,000 baseline, then there's an inherent ripple effect where every other charge reasonably should raise by the same ratio. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah.
And so now that creates a conundrum. And then I said, well, okay, even if we were to assert that 1,000 is the baseline and there's going to be a natural ripple effect of every other fine and time going up along the same lines, I now have to show, or I need to prove, I have to debug is the best word. I have to debug their logic to figure out what the fuck they were thinking due to the lack of documentation. And I'm just, that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, I have to make assumptions and then run off those assumptions to figure out what the fuck they were thinking.
And I, just from talking during, like, campaign week, I was talking a lot to Manor, for one, and finding out about certain issues where, like, crime doesn't pay. It's not supposed to pay. But at some rate, I guess it kind of makes sense to factor in the amount of money at risk, I guess, when, there's fines involved. So, for example, I was learning a lot about bank trucks, for example, where the payout for a bank truck, if you rob it, right, is you get $150,000 maybe total. And then the ability to rob a Fleeca bank, which may give you up to $200,000, but sometimes gives you nothing. Apparently, some of the Fleeca banks are completely empty, and then
they don't restock after an initial robbery.
Right, and so that being the case, the fact that getting caught or trying to rob a bank truck generally results in over $300,000 of fines per person doesn't make any logical sense, because it's like an insurance payment. It's like you're paying more for you're making money by being robbed, essentially. The bank truck people are doubling the money that they have.
Oh my god, it's true.
By getting robbed. So if they don't get robbed, they have $150,000. If they do get robbed, now there's, $300,000 times 6 people who got involved in it, plus probably more because multiple gangs will try it, and so you have 10 people on the floor, and then all of those people get fined and all of their weapons get taken. So that's like maybe a couple $1 million.
Oh my
And that's
God.
crazy.
I didn't even think about it that way. So oh my God, that is so funny.
I'm gonna start a bank truck company.
Yeah. Well, even if we factor all that, right? What we're kind of discussing right now, let's call it our high level. Let's call it. This was our initial, right? Our initial collective feelings about these penal call changes, right?
Right.
Well, I wanted to make sure that we still took the professional approach and, really deep dived into the whole document with the comments that Turner gave me, which they didn't want to give me originally, to make sure
Is that something accessible, or is that something that you just have? Like, is that on the docket or something where I can find it?
I can take a look. It was like, so the story goes, Weiss allegedly reviewed all this stuff with people, and you should ask. Remember when he's like, you should ask the chief of police. Why don't you ask him? Bullshit. And so I did ask him, and he's like, I got you. And he gave me the document, and he told me that the only discussion they had is they called him into the meeting room. They had a 30-minute conversation about how things are changing, and they gave him the document and said to him and like other command members, said, let us know what you think. That was the 3-week discussion. That was it.
Wow.
So I pull this open, and we start reviewing the comments. And I'm going to try to get you a copy. It might give you a migraine. It might have you start regretting everything. Because that's how I felt at the end of it. Because as it turns out, you ready for this, Princess? It's not just new charges that were added. It's not just fine and time changes. They actually flat out removed entire penal code charges. For example, there was a charge where you cannot drive without a helmet in a open cabin vehicle like an ATV. They just removed it. They said, if people want to decide that they want to drive and hurt themselves, that's fine.
Oh my God.
The principle of it being, and I called Dr. Perry. I'm like, did they consult you on this? She said she didn't know anything about it. So I don't necessarily disagree with the notion of if someone wants to drive an ATV without a helmet, that's their choice. But you know what? But it's not the DOJ's choice to decide that's okay.
No, Nino, you misunderstand. It's because all of them did that and then hit their heads really hard, and that's why they made all the penal code changes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what it's starting to feel like. And that's not the only charge. There are other charges that they straight up removed, like attempted prison break. There was a distinction between attempting to break into a prison, like maybe messing with the, breaking the gates open or whatever, but not succeeding in breaking people out. They just removed it. There's not even any comments.
Oh my God.
And
And I know someone who would get that charge a lot.
Yep.
Because Ted used to love to ramp his car into prison, but kept getting stuck in the
Yep.
boat.
And once again, there might be reason behind this, but it needs to be discussed. You don't just rip some huge charge. Oh, but there's more.
Oh?
Felony hit and run. How often do you think people do felony hit and run? Just by a guess.
I don't know. Tell that to all of the road rash I have from getting hit by cars.
You lose your license. No.
What?
It went from 3 points to lose your license.
And
They even showing to change the points.
We still have no method of getting licenses back, right? Like those don't
I have no
exist.
idea. Oh, no, they do. I think the judges give it back.
But I don't think you can get your driving license back because there's no driving school.
Oh, my God. I wanted to do that first term, and this is the bullshit that prevents it from happening. They turned it from 3 months to 20 months with the hey, well, you could have murdered somebody, 20 points. Like, where? So at this stage, I was like, Princess, I'm looking over this, and I'm like, this is deeper than I thought. Like, this is literally, they went and just said, you know what? Let's decide how the city should run in our vision, effectively. And
yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, surely it can't get any worse. Go ahead and open up your MDT and look up second-degree murder.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do that on my phone because I'm not signed in.
Oh, well.
But I'll do it.
Yeah, okay.
All right, second degree.
They redefined what second-degree murder is.
Of passion. What is this, a fan fiction?
I don't know. They removed premeditation and malice afterthought from second-degree murder. Which...
With callous disregard for human life, isn't that... Wait, and isn't... I mean, first-degree murder... Yeah, I remember... Okay.
So, second-degree murder used to read... the act of unlawfully killing that does not involve malice afterthought and the intent to seriously harm or kill or extreme reckless disregard to life. Heat of passion, callous disregard for human life. Right? This is the raw definition of second-degree murder in most Western societies. It has now been changed to unlawful killing of another human, either intentionally with the heat of passion, with the intent to cause serious body harm, or with callous disregard to human life. That is not the difference between first and second degree. First and second degree all has to do with premeditation and malice afterthought. That is the foundation of what second degree is. So it's literally like, and while we can certainly debate the merits of this, this is a huge fucking change.
Is it? And quick, you know more about the actual like legal side of this than I do. Why is it that first and second degree murder are specifically about killing, but then murder of a government employee is described as an intentional act that leads to the death of a government employee? Because that sounds really vague.
It is. Murder of a government employee should all 100% change. In fact, it should only be first and second degree murder. It should be a HAG charge and a part of the legislation. So what should happen is it's either first degree murder or second degree murder, and it's a HAG, and literally you figure out, what happens. I don't know. It's what it is. I think at the end of it is this is what happens when people don't think about law as a whole and rather like hot patch, hot fix law, right? It stops making sense.
It's just like our legislation. It's like a new penal code charge needs to be added, so they add it separately from everything else. But now there's a bunch of crossover and strange things.
Or like certain things are just like you could spend the same amount of time in jail. I don't know. It's well, at the end of this whole review that we did with the penal code, it's just it's not just additions. It's literally entire swaths of the entire legal code has been changed. And the only way, I don't know. It's we're gonna be putting together a full breakdown, and some of these points are going to be laid out in the document. But we're gonna recommend a full reversion, but in addition to that, we're gonna lay out a plan of action as to how to fix this long term. I expect that there might be a lot of pissed off justices, but I don't really give a shit,
Yeah, I mean, if we did care about that, then half of the things that we're working on would be stopped before they began.
1,000%. And I want to be clear, I did not want to do a reversion, right? But I also didn't expect it to be this bad. Like,
Yeah.
it's just.
And what are you that for the reversion? Will that fix this fines issue of, and is that something we need to fix about, just things costing so much to in fines that it just doesn't make any sense?
I think it will
be
it will fix it initially, but the long-term resolution I think comes down to getting proper legislation finally in place, that treats, like, we need legislation for crimes against persons, which is like kidnappings and this and that and that, and a whole thing on robberies, a whole thing on like weapons, right? And when such a structure gets put into place, then as society moves forward, right, and we find new things or need to alter things, the legislation gets updated, and then subsequently the penal code. In fact, as we sort of like further deep dived into this, Michael and I came to a shared agreement that a lot of penal code charges should actually be removed, just straight outright, and can be condensed into like first and second degrees.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's too many individual charges for things that could be part of other things. Exactly like the legislation stuff we were saying. Like, it could all be codified in a way that would not require such specific, like, we're at the point now where it would seem like the next step in this direction, or in like the bad direction, would be we're gonna end up having like robbery of a Fleeca bank as a charge, and then robbery of Polito Bank as a charge.
Oh,
But,
I agree.
Robbery of a financial institution should cover that, and we shouldn't need to have such specific charges that any minute change to the system means the charges don't make sense anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something that might sound a little mean-spirited, but I don't think it's intentional. I just actually believe it's reality. Like, this isn't tongue-in-cheek. Is that I think this legislation feels like it was written by cops that wanted to skip all investigatory steps. Like, and
no, I agree.
It's just like, but what makes it, like, it created effectively like a flow chart. Oh, you're in cuffs.
It does, you're right.
Boop, 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 boop. These are check marks. See you later. But because everything is just not like, everything is so
conveyor belt, assembly line.
Yes, exactly. And that it doesn't make any sense, quite frankly. But what's worse is we have situations like this. There's a penal code update in there where I think it's called like possession of a thermal fuse. It now is illegal to also have thermite. So thermite became illegalized during this time. We didn't even know that. It was legal before. And, Michael and I made this argument of like, why is thermite illegal? Thermite is utilized all around the world for construction, for railroads, for fixing fuses.
Right.
Why should you having something that could be used in a crime, why should that put you in jail? It doesn't make any sense. That stuff only becomes illegal if you commit a robbery with it, right?
Right. Well, and then it's I think a lot of things, it could be the loss of the item itself. Like, you can get, if you rob a bank and you have thermite, then the police can reasonably seize the thermite. Doesn't mean you need to be separately charged with having the thermite, but they can say even a lot of legal things can still be seized if they were used in the commission of a crime.
What do we start adding, like, possession of a full face mask, you know, possession of, thick rubber gloves or whatever, you know.
Possession of a knife. That's guaranteed in the Constitution that we have a legal right to it.
Yeah.
But you can still use it in a crime.
Oh my God. Possession of a vehicle that drives faster than a police car.
That would be great. That would be a great one to add. Police would love that.
Is that the charge, as you alluded to, is fulfilled by the arrest. If somebody robs the bank, because we already have those charges already fall into the umbrella of robbing the bank. So why would possession of thermite, like if you're a cop and whatever, like, it's also escalating. Now imagine, why can Princess not own, in the future, a thermite shop? That's a job. It's a civilian job. Mm-hmm. Now, if Princess, for example, started selling a specific group thermite who consistently rob banks with it, one could argue investigatorily that maybe Princess is knowingly providing thermite via this front. That you got an investigation right there. But if Princess is selling thermite
But is that worth an investigation? If it's still, we've got legal moonshine distilleries, but if the legal moonshine distilleries are selling moonshine to people, and then those people are reselling that moonshine to locals, is that the distillery's fault?
Well, the distinction is, if, Princess's thermite shop was selling just to the besties, right? Because if Princess was selling just to the besties, right, then, or let's say Michael Bazin, right? Everyone knows, Bazin, it's under that banner, the besties banner.
Right.
But it becomes if he owned the thermite shop and he was exclusively or 90% selling to the besties, you could say, in theory, I think it's reasonable for an investigator to wonder, does he know what they're using it for? And therefore, is he providing them with the means to robbed often? But I think that would be very different than if Bazin indiscriminately was selling thermite to everybody and his clientele was vast, right? But either way, an investigation could lead to a dead end, right? It's just a theory. Is there money trails? But simply Michael Bazin having 10 thermite on him should not be a felony.
And I would argue also that if you make every individual item required to, let's say, rob a bank illegal, and if someone robs a bank, they are required to have all of those items. So those are all pieces of evidence, but those are also requirements. But then simply all you're doing is you could just increase the fine on robbing a bank, because they're going to have to pay that additional fine every single time, because they need that in order to do that. So if
Agreed.
It shouldn't be an additional fine to have the items required to do the crime when you're paying the fine for doing the crime anyway, and you need those items to do it.
Exactly. The crime is the robbery, not what you had, right? Yeah. Unless there is an inherent basis by which, like a weapon,
Right.
There's another matter here too. Yeah. If I was a bank robber and in my trunk was a robbery kit, and maybe that robbery kit is just 5 thermite, am I going to comply with law enforcement in a traffic stop, or am I going to dip? Am I potentially going to start a shootout? Am I potentially, because in the back of my car are otherwise non-dangerous, non-threatening items, but they're worth 500,000, not 500, they're worth who knows, $100,000, $200,000 of equipment. I'm going to flee. I might shoot the cops. So we're actually creating a...
I think that's on you for putting a robbery kit in big letters in Sharpie on your thermite.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, no, but even the thermite...
Yeah, no, for sure.
Is undefined. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and even if it's not, thermite is one of those... I think that's a sort of fringe case, because I think there are reasons to say that, for example, a grenade or a smoke bomb. Those are illegal to possess.
Agreed. That I agree.
And thermite does have the potential to, I mean, I guess I wouldn't really, you can't really call it an explosive device or put it under that umbrella, but something along those lines makes sense. But, you know, a laptop that can be used to hack into a bank, that's
Agreed.
That's absolutely not even a fringe case. That should not, in any case, be illegal.
Agreed. It only becomes illegal when you use it, right?
Yeah. And even then, it is evidence of a crime, but it itself is not a crime.
Agreed.
Like, I made that joke when, I forget when it was, when there was that case where Lang Buddha was found. No, it wasn't. It was actually at the, oh, sorry.
I'm going to make a very hilarious phone call. Give me a second.
Okay. Calling Edgar.
Wait, how do you know?
Because he just bought it.
Oh, I think his number changed. Oh, yeah, I
God.
stole it, didn't I?
He's probably on lemon list.
Yeah, yeah.
Hola.
He is.
How you doing, Edgar? You looking for a lawyer?
Oh my goodness, is this Croc?
No, this is man Nino Chavez.
Oh my god. Why do you sound like Croc, the Australian?
Wait, how do I sound Australian?
I thought it was Croc, the lawyer.
Croc's
no, it's not
a lawyer?
Croc, it's Nino Chavez, man. I thought it was Croc.
No, I'm the OG, first with a bar license.
But you're a mayor, amigo. You're not a lawyer.
I'm both. Yeah, take a look at my profile. Do you need legal representation or do you need legal consultation?
I'm calling on behalf of someone that's just got arrested who's going to be facing a long time.
Are we talking about a hag charge or?
Held until a hot charge.
Okay.
But listen, look, I'm going to be frank with you.
Yeah.
You know, even though I'm Edgar. I don't trust you, man. Not for this.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Well, let's pretend you trust me for a little bit. Is this for Jay?
Yeah.
Okay. I know he didn't kill the guy in the sewer, rest in piss, whatever that BCSO cop is. So I'm assuming it is about the murder of that other dumb fuck in Blaine County. What the fuck's his name? Beretta? Is this about Beretta? Does he have a hot gun?
It's a lot more than that. It's several bodies.
What?
See. I don't think it's a good case for you to take.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, if you can't get anyone, I'm willing to give consultation. I do like Jay. So. All right.
Hey, someone was...
You want to talk
Okay,
in person?
I need to hurry up right now because they're moving him and I want the lawyer to be there ready. I'll call you back.
Let me give you a recommendation then before you go.
Please.
Give me a sec. Call Murphy Braun. He may be around. There are literally no other lawyers. Give me a sec. Let me get someone to wake up. All right.
Okay, you'll be doing me a massive favor, man.
Yeah, no worries.
Bye.
Listen, we may have had history in the past, but I got no bad blood. At the end of the day, fuck the cops. So, all right.
I
We'll get
wait
a
for
phone
your
call
call
soon.
then. Okay, bye.
Bye.
I told Jay Hobbs that I would make him sheriff for a day.
Really?
Well, kind of. But now I'm wondering if I should.
Mr. Chavez, how you doing?
Funny.
Hey, Judge Yilong. Can you? I'm looking for an available lawyer. Do you think you can have them call me? It's a matter of urgency.
Let me reach out to a couple people, and
Okay.
they should probably get back to you about 5 minutes or so.
All right. Thank you very much.
All
You
right.
take care.
All right, then later.
He's a judge now? Didn't he get fired from the PD?
He did.
Yeah,
Apparently he
was the
stole
first
some
cop that
ammo.
Really? He was the first cop that ever gave me a ride along.
And in turn, Blaine County hired 2 individuals that doctored reports just a couple days ago. Oh my God,
It's
we
wild
gotta.
considering how few people they hire, like compared to they. I keep hearing people, you know, like new LSPD cadets being like, "Yeah, I applied to join BCSO, but they rejected me." I'm like, I think they. I don't know what their priorities are. BCSO. I don't know. Gonna make some changes for sure.
Yeah, I'll give you the TLDR. Just so you have an. I became a lawyer because of Riker, or a mayor. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
He went through Tilly Winter's phone. Captain Slacks at the time covered up for it and was a part of it. Went through her cell phone illegally. They tried to force her to get rid of her family. Then they pushed her out of PD. And then when it when it showed up in court, Riker doctored his. He tried to update the report to remove evidence. He was
That's
subsequently fired after an investigation by the marshals, and he was hired.
That's crazy.
And I brought up, like, if someone is willing to do that as law enforcement, you can never trust that person ever again.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Like, it's too.
So I guess I don't know much about him or Slacks even, but I know only through Duncan. So how do you feel about Duncan?
I jokingly saw him, and I'm like, you were the perfect sheriff. And I actually mean that.
Oh, yeah?
In my personal opinion, this is like very much like Cornwood would have been the best sheriff, I think.
Mm-mm.
I think Duncan is in that same spectrum of what, in my mind, I would envision of a BCSO, where it fits a vibe and a demeanor of, when I think of if I'm in, like, you know, the county, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who would I run into and be like, that's the sheriff, right? And
Yeah, I could see him fitting that,
Yeah.
and Cornwood absolutely fitting that.
Mm.
He wants to make Duncan. Well, Duncan is convinced I'm going to make him sheriff, even though all I've said to him is I'm going to have interviews. He's like, you know, because he said, like, are you going to keep asking the sheriff? I said, you know, I'm going to have interviews, and anyone can interview because that's fair. And so apparently he's been going around telling people that depending on the results of the election, there's a non-zero chance that he will become sheriff. And people are calling me being like,
Oh,
are you
no.
making Duncan sheriff?
Oh, my God.
I mean, he's very on board with the Castle Court idea, which I like. But he also, I feel like when people call you a yapper, Nino, and
Oh, yeah.
I know we have a lot of long conversations, but I always feel like our long conversations are very productive and constructive, and like, you know, I come out of these conversations like I've got a new understanding of things, and that was there was stuff discussed. Duncan calls me every single day to talk to me about, I don't even know, but it's a lot of it.
I know exactly what you're saying.
So I'm gonna do the interviews, but I really want to talk to McNulty about the Castle Court idea. I think depending on his response about it,
Yeah.
I think that he might be just the right person. Even though in the past, I mean, even when he interviewed for Mumbles, and before that, I have always been very anti-McNulty, purely because he was always mean to me. But I think that it's possible that he would be perfect, because I think that he is liked enough by BCSO not to have them all go on strike, which, you know, if someone else was put in place, like, BCSO is very picky. But then he's not so... I feel as if Aspen is very, very good for morale and for events and things like that, but I think that she struggles with disciplining deputies because she doesn't want to ruin the vibe.
Yeah, that's pretty spot on.
And I don't think McNulty struggles with that at all.
Yeah, he's a little hit or miss, from my experience. I mean, at the end of the day, there is no like perfect. There is no such thing as perfect, right? It's
That's
different styles.
Yeah, for sure. But I think there's a very, the pool of potential sheriffs goes, like, most of them fall through the cracks when it comes down to, will you be awake?
Mm,
And I think that that's the most important thing.
I agree.
I would honestly, and I know I say this as a mayor who kind of ran on a platform of I'm here every day, but I would rather a bad mayor who is here every day than a decent mayor that never wakes up.
Um,
'Cause at
Here's,
least you can do something about it in that case.
here's I think that for me, I think it's more important for someone like you, who is the mayor of Blaine County, to be able to pick someone that you believe fits the vision of not just your department, but for the people that you represent. And I think that if there is a fear that there would be a strike, that's all the more reason to give them the middle finger and say, you know, fuck you. You work for me. Sorry, just real quick. Hey, Tony. Call Edgar on the Yellow Pages. Let him know that I sent you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Bye.
All right, later.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I think also, you know, there's a middle ground of, I don't want BCSO to be acting in ways that cause civilians to not want to interact with them. But I
Agreed.
also don't
Yeah.
want BCSO to be micromanaged in ways that make them not want to patrol. And
Yeah.
on both ends, like, I don't want, you know, and maybe it's partly because BCSO makes up so much of just the people who spend time in Blaine County.
Mm,
But I care about them enjoying what they do,
mm,
as long as they are acting, you know, in a way that benefits the citizens.
mm.
I would rather, though, like, honestly, I think that if they, I don't know, I want to make sure that they are not going to be, if they're all in a bad mood all the time, it lowers the mood of the entire Blaine County.
I agree. I guess mostly what I was trying to aim at there is that people holding their employment over other people's heads, to me, kind of reads like a like a threat. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
maybe it's because I've seen that before, and over time
Right.
I'm just like, listen, walk out. I did it to Tilly, actually.
Yeah. And I don't even mean,
Yeah.
when I say strike, I don't necessarily mean that they're going to go on strike. I just mean that, like, BCSO is very much a lot of strong personalities, and I want to give them the kind of creative freedom to be their own people, and not feel like they are, you know, like they are going to. I think when they feel boxed in, they will become like RoboCops.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're like, I'm gonna do my job. I'll probably not patrol in Blaine County or hang out with people. You know, I want them to enjoy. I mean, frankly, I want police officers who go off duty ever. But, you know, if that's not gonna happen, I at least want them to be somewhat friendly and enjoyable to be around on duty.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Where were we, by the way, prior to all this? Fuck the
we were at the
DOJ.
penal code stuff, and then, well, that's usually where we're at.
Yeah.
But we were. Oh, I was actually. You know what? Before you took the phone call from Edgar,
Yeah.
I was saying. I don't remember why. Oh, I was saying that that when we had the meeting with the governor, I posted on Twitter afterwards saying that research and investigation shows that 99% of criminals who are committing crime are wearing pants, and therefore we've decided to outlaw pants.
Oh my God. Yeah. That.
Because having possession of things and committing crimes doesn't justify making the possession of those things illegal.
Absolutely. There is have the penal code and legislation right now is simply not comprehensive. It can be made comprehensive. There's a couple ideas we were chewing on, and this is like down the line sort of thing, like let's say first 30 days sort of thing. Is like, let's say we get this penal code stuff out of the way, and some of the first few pieces of legislation that kind of act as umbrellas, like umbrella legislation, like robberies, crimes against
Right.
people, and really deep dive into what those things are. The penal code can then be made a little bit more generic, and the details, you always reference legislation. That's just good. It's healthy. Everyone's got to understand it. It also means less buttons to push. But it also, we were thinking about, and about some of this stuff, and the idea came up, and this is very blue skying, but I'm not convinced this is the best option yet. But hag charges today are not seen by a court for God knows how long, right? And given that that's the case, I wouldn't want to see many hags. However, what I think should happen is that there should be something called a hag light. There's probably a better term for it. And to give an example, is that a prison break should be a hag light. Now, what is a hag light? If you actually break into prison, that could be some SBS shit, right? Clowns come in, go knife somebody, ha ha he he, right? Or you could break in and literally kill the DOC, break into their computers. You could do some wild shit. In other words, the spectrum of what that prison break-in is pretty wide, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so what is a hag light? A hag light is they put you in prison, and within 24 hours, there is a hearing by a judge. It has to be within 24, or they let you go, and it's got to get done in 7 days. Like I said, this is still like, blue skying. Is that the evidence gets posted, both sides say this is what happened, and a judge determines the fine and time within a lower band and an upper band spectrum. And some of that can be nuanced out with like a first degree, second degree, third degree. You don't even need 3 charges. Right. It's just one hag light charge. But that lower end of the spectrum, top end of the spectrum, you're effectively, what you're doing is it's a summary judgment, right? Mm-hmm. So if you went in there and he stabbed the DOC, like you physically like broke in, right? The worst case, you went in there for a couple hours and you get like a $10,000, $20,000 fine. And maybe that summary judgment happened immediately. If it's a much bigger deal, right, then it gets treated like a bigger deal and handled accordingly. Instead of what seemingly is trying to average out the worst and best cases and assigning a fine and time to it.
Yeah, no, I like that.
And
I also, going back to what you were saying at the beginning of that about, making things more so, like, general with first degree, second degree, stuff like that. I think that it's occurred to me that kind of what the DOJ has done with the penal code changes is work themselves out of a job, because the whole point of, like, the whole process of creating case law requires that someone gets charged with something that is a generic charge, but for a specific situation, and it is up to the justices or the judge of that to decide, does this event or incident fall under this charge, or does a new charge need to be created for it? And then that's the case law. So specifically the example that I know has come up recently is Chatterbox coughing on people to give them the plague, right? There was a lot of debate over whether there should be whether he should be charged with serial assaults for that, and I think what a lot of the police wanted to do was create a penal code update that creates a charge for specifically that, which is always going to be malicious, because if you create a charge because of something someone has done and then charge them with that thing without them going to court first and actually like already being arrested, then it's like it's just automatically you've just built a charge so that you can charge someone with it, which is extremely malicious. And so the way that those cases are supposed to go, at least as far as I'm concerned, is, you arrest Chatterbox for whatever he did, you pick a charge that best defines, like situations that include what he did, and then, your lawyer tries to prove to the judge or the justice that this is an example of serial assault and killings, or this is an example of reckless endangerment, or something like that. And then if it's like, yes, this does fall within this category, then the case law will be, or rather the deliberation and verdict will be written as a precedent, so that in the future, if someone does the same thing, they can get charged in the same way.
I agree. Yeah, I absolutely. You're describing case law the way that it should be done.
Yeah, but if they make all these, specific, like you said, flowchart charges,
yes,
they're working themselves out of a job, because you can't create case law of like possession of thermite.
Well,
If that's a charge and then someone gets caught with thermite, it's like they either had thermite or they didn't have thermite. That's already
exactly
no expanding from that.
Exactly. It's removing all critical thought processes.
Yeah.
And I'm
the
gonna go
possibility of precedent.
absolutely.
Which is important for new developments. Like we have, criminal possession of an explosive device, right? That's an all-encompassing charge, and then if someone gets caught with something that is or isn't an explosive device, that can go to court, and we can decide in court, or the justices can decide, does this count, firework? Does that count as an explosive device? And therefore, anytime someone's caught with that in the future, now we have the precedent that it will count as an explosive device.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, looking at some of the case law that's been put out, I wouldn't even call it case law. You know what I mean? I think what you're describing right there is how it should be working. But I think it kind of goes back to, and I made sure that I always like to give this disclaimer, is that while I think some things the DOJ done, like this penal code stuff, is absolutely cooked and I think egregious and malicious, and I think there was a very clear attempt to undermine everybody doing it. Like, I don't think that this could have been done accidentally or like an oopsie. Right. I will say that when it comes to things like the case law, I think it's just they literally just don't have the experience. And I think it goes back to why a bar association is so desperately needed to develop the understanding of law and core competency in it, so that a year from now, we can start having folks that truly understand what these things mean, and that's going to be a boon for everybody. Because
for sure.
Anyways, yep, that was my morning deal. It's been something else.
Oh yeah. I'm trying not to think about tomorrow, because I'm giving myself a break, considering I spent the whole last week working on campaigning and everything, but I just am hopeful that I will be able to help with this from the same position that I have been.
I think that you have a very real chance. I think you have a better chance of winning than Marty does. You've been around. People have seen your work. You know, Marty does have a lot of good qualities. However, you know, I think I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow.
I am curious, you know, assuming that the election goes our way. What are your thoughts on Murphy? In
Murphy-
I guess a cabinet capacity, because he's wondering about, you know, does he go the DOJ route, like try to join them on that
Wait,
side of
did
things,
you
or
offer him a
does he-
job?
Yes.
Okay, all right. The way you were saying it, because Murphy mentioned he was offered a job yesterday, and the way you were saying it, I was questioning whether he was being honest. Murphy and I have a very, 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 very long history. And so I think, and I say this about everyone, whether it's Murphy, whether it's someone new, that most people don't, he's in for a rude awakening. And only time will tell whether he will be compatible or won't be compatible. Doesn't matter if it's Murphy, doesn't matter if it's Tilly, like it's you know what I'm saying? Like it's who knows how he's going to react when he sees how things work and how much patience is truly required. Because I think that's the key word. You need patience and you need persistence. You know?
Oh yeah, and you need the willingness to think outside the box on things that you shouldn't have to. Like I was talking to him yesterday about the castle court idea, and he kind of seemed to me like he was not in favor of the idea purely because in his mind he thinks that, you know, because the reasoning for having something like that is because it takes a month and a half to get a docket case, and then the judges are going to be biased towards the cops anyway. But basically what he was saying is, well, it shouldn't take you know, it shouldn't take a month and a half, and the judges shouldn't be biased towards the cops, so we shouldn't need this. And sure, that's all very true. And if those things were fixed, we wouldn't need any, you know, kind of out of the box solutions. But I am being somewhat realistic in that I don't have the ability to change those things, and I think that even if this is a temporary solution and we can work on changing those things eventually, it's still important to have those temporary solutions and the knowledge that, you know, we kind of have to work with the way things are as opposed to just trying to make things change and assuming that in a year things will be better.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out if it, because I did offer him a cabinet position, undefined, but I have been thinking about how, you know, the deputy mayor position doesn't really have any legislation behind it. And when I think of the concept of a deputy mayor, what I would want is someone who I can trust that if I'm not around, either just because I'm away for a day or because I die, that person, I can completely trust that they can make decisions in my stead and share the same values and
Oh, you are very
plans.
trusting.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's... Well, the thing is, though, I don't think there's anyone like that, which is...
Agreed.
But I want someone that is good enough that ideally it can mean that the situation can change where, you know, if I were to get shot in the head, there wouldn't have to be an interim election because the deputy mayor would be responsible for just becoming the mayor. Because that's what I feel like makes sense. And, you know, but I'm trying to figure out who I can trust to be both competent and share my values. And I know that Murphy Braun is competent, but I just have to figure out whether he shares my values.
I feel like Murphy is going to bring a lot of good value to your office. And I think, God damn it. Fuck. Sorry, I just read the news on the new Dune movie. That just popped up. You ever had your phone buzz and like you got the little article? It says, Dune Awakening suffers a last-minute 3-week delay. Well, that sucks. So
Sorry for your loss.
yeah, I was looking forward to that movie. Yeah, I guess for me, like, it's not that for me, like, I don't have a deputy mayor, not because I don't trust my folks, like Michael, for example. It's that I've found that in San Andreas, due to inability to retain information, goldfish memory, communication breakdowns, all these kind of things, is that the danger of a deputy would be that a deputy may be could be as professional, as perfect as possible, but it can be if let's say your deputy mayor said, hey, we need to be careful speeding in Blaine County, right? While you're away for a week. You come back and now you're dealing with your deputy mayor was telling us how to police.
Yeah.
And
true.
you know what I mean? And so which is I think why I've kind of kept like such a flat structure is it's not, I trust them all under me. I don't trust other people in their treatment of them. Right. So it's like,
Well, and I think that it works for the two of us because we are willing to be both mayor and deputy mayor. Because, ideally, you wouldn't have to be awake for 16 hours a day doing mayor things because you'd have someone that could do those mayor things for you. But I totally see why that's not possible.
Oh,
And
for like
so
others
you're
and
acting
such.
in capacity as, like, being there 24/7, just in case.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how other people are gonna. How is? Do you ever wonder who the fuck actually wants to do this job like 6 months from now? Will they be able
I
to?
don't even know why people want to do this job currently.
Well, the ballots show that many people don't.
Yeah.
Like, think about it. Marty was like last second. Who else is Duncan? That's jokes. Party.
Well, I mean,
Party's
like,
a great
like
guy, but
10
he's
people
doing it
decided
for the
to run,
memes,
and then
you know?
you said you were running, and then everyone else decided to drop out.
Yeah. Okay, that is true.
That was hilarious to see on the videos, like everyone back to back being like, "I'm gonna drop out." But no, you're right. I mean, I also think that perhaps one day, and it's what we do for, we are working towards a future in which, like, assuming, considering the next mayors to be basically our children, right? Where we want to make the world better for them so that when they become mayor, they don't have to deal with all of this legislative change of essentially building a nation. They can do the kind of fun mayor work that involves hosting events and making businesses happen and stuff like that. But right now, that's not what this job is. This job is a redesign of a country or our state because, and I know that this is much more you than me, but I still feel like we're still in the founding father stages of this because, I mean, maybe it's like refounding or refounding.
Yeah, I very much agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, the revolution is actually still ongoing, and the red coats are actually in the DOJ, and so
Not to be confused with the red cuts. That's what the Chaos Legion call themselves because they.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
They used to be the Pred coats, but they wanted it to be more like general so that they can still salute me, even though Kyle Pred's not mayor anymore.
Oh my God,
We
that's
renamed
funny.
them the red cuts.
Oh my god. All right. Well, Princess, I got to get going. I need to get out of here. But
All right,
this is a good
I
conversation.
should pick that up.
Yep.
Yeah, always is.
I think we should have the proposal and everything hopefully done by tomorrow evening, and then
Okay.
we'll give you a copy. We'll give Perry a copy, and critique as much as you want. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
My God, Charles has been there the entire time.
All right.
I told him he didn't have to.
Hey, he's great. All right. You take care, Princess.
Right. You too, Nino.
Let me top this off. Do 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 do.